This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Whitmer here, and welcome into another episode, brother, of Heel Talk. I'm here with my co-host. The Mega Powers are back together, brother. It's Soapy Mother, brother, Soapy Muffins. How you doing, Soapy?
Well, I'm doing all right, yeah.
I will say, no matter...
I just feel like I'm constipated.
I mean, isn't that Randy Savage? Oh, yeah, brother. Oh, yeah, the Mega Powers, brother.
I mean, that kind of is just kind of what it turns into, to be honest.
Someone's going to clip that now. Why did I do that? Like... Yep. Someone's going to clip it, put it on social media. It's going to become a GIF. But we're back talking wrestling here on Heel Talk. And Soapy, what a heel talk to be alive. Because, you know, I feel like WWE pay-per-views happen. And it's like, oh man, everything. It's either, wow, that was good. Wow, that was bad. It's usually never, sometimes it is, but usually never like, oh, let's see what's going on in this part of the universe. Where whenever AEW has a pay-per-view that is good, it is instantly not about AEW. It is about both companies and how they react together.
Yeah, because all of Twitter comes together to either completely downplay the event or to overhype the event. There's never any just middle ground of like, it was good. Mm-hmm. There's always either it's the greatest thing ever or everyone who works in a company for letters I don't like sucks.
Well, if you guys couldn't tell, we're going to be talking about a lot about Dynasty today. Might fit in some other things. I may ask Soapy some random questions that come to mind, but really Dynasty is going to probably be the main focus of today. You can watch our live reactions. We were live for the entire pay-per-view, see how we were during each match. Before we get into it, though, quick housekeeping. I'm going to keep it very simple. Discord, greatest community in the universe. You can go ahead and join it free down below in the description. You can also check out the Patreon page where you can support us. You can watch the show live. That's one of the things you could get. All of that is in the description with our social medias. You can also check out any other links that we have down there. The sub button, hit the sub button if you're not subbed to MVP Entertainment. It's a great channel. We do a lot of great things here. Hit the like button if you like it. And obviously anything we talk about today, hit that comment section as well. Also, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, we're there too. You can find us audio if you're driving in your car and don't have YouTube Premium and can't do what the old YouTubes used to be able to do, where I could listen on my phone and close my phone and have it black like this and still listening to YouTube. But Soapy, Dynasty happened yesterday. I'm going to ask you, where do you want to start when it comes to Dynasty reactions the day after? Because there were a lot of good things from Dynasty, in my opinion. I was not expecting such a great show.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably start with the 0 hour. Okay. I know you weren't here for most of it.
Yeah, I skipped the pre-show. That was on me. I was getting ready. I was showering.
Yeah, I think it was what you came back as the
third match.
Yeah, as the third match was happening. Mm-hmm. I was about to say the team's name, and my brain just turned off halfway into starting it.
The Acclaimed and Bullet Club.
You would came back like right after the Acclaim's entrance, but you didn't see what everyone got mad at Max Caster for, which justifiably.
You said that it looked like he was going to get punished by AEW, or those were the rumors?
A lot of it's coming from mostly he teetered into the don't say that on live TV thing. Mm-hmm. Because he was doing the whole thing, I'm not going to repeat it word for word. Yeah. But basically, he was telling Jay White that he's going to abuse him and basically R-word him to the point he'd have to report him to HR. Yeah. Where it's like, no, you probably don't say that. Which, I mean, I think it just kind of confirms that they are going to end up going the heel turn with Max Caster. Mm-hmm. Let's hope that all the raps just don't turn into that.
Solo heel turn or Acclaimed as a whole heel turn?
I think Solo, because if it was going to be the whole Acclaimed, Owens wouldn't have stopped him.
Yeah, good point.
Because it was at the thing, like, as he was about to say, the non-scientific way of saying male genitalia.
The non-scientific way.
Yeah, it was Bowens took the mic away from him. Oh, okay. I think that they're gonna play into that they're starting to go rift apart from one another.
Okay, I mean, it makes sense. Like, for me, it's one of those where the Acclaimed were really hot. Then Billy Gunn came along and they just got shot to the moon. And recently it's kind of been like, not, maybe you could tell me more about this, but like, not necessarily a dip, but to me it's just seemed like stagnant. Like, okay, where do they go from here? They're not getting better. They're not like all the way in the toilet, but people are just like, okay, the Acclaimed are there, and they're just stagnant.
Yeah, it's the primary reason why that's happening is because with the way the trios divisions worked, of essentially just there's like two teams. They really haven't had people to feud with.
Has the trios division been a success or a failure then? If there's only two teams,
it's the weird, like, when they introduced the trios, there were a lot of trios, and then like I think it was when the House of Black won. They split up a bunch of the trios just into, like, singles and tag guys to where everyone's like, so why?
Because what? The trios that you had at the time was Death Triangle was a trio. You had the Penta and, was it Penta Phoenix and Pac?
Triangle. Yeah.
Then you had the Elite was the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. House of Black, obviously still around, the three of them. The Acclaimed with Billy Gunn. The Best Friends were technically a trio, right? You had what? Seidel, Beretta, and Orange Cassidy. They were a trio?
Yeah, it was Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, and Orange Cassidy.
That's it, Chuck Taylor.
Yeah, you had them. You had the few times that you would get like FTR and Punk together. Those were never going to win trio.
Did the Dark Order ever have a trio?
Technically, yes, but they never really went for the belts.
Okay.
Well, yeah, like there were a bunch of like, and they started to build up Andrade, ROH, and I forget the final person that was with their group. Like they started building them up, and then obviously that's when Andrade got into his fight backstage with Sammy Guevara, one of the 500 people who have fought him at this point. Where like there were a whole bunch of teams. And then just out of nowhere, they're just like, split up a bunch of them. Let's see what happens. Like, basically just throw it to the wind. And everyone's like, so why'd we do that?
Do you think they bring together some trio teams again? Or do you think Tony's like, hey, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to put my focus other places within storylines and such.
Yeah, I think what we're probably going to get is they are going to fully unify the belts between the ROH and the AEW trios.
Is that not what happened?
Just consolidate those into one belt. Well, it's technicality. They own two belts now.
Okay. So they're champs.
I think that yeah. Because that's why they were doing the whole promos afterwards of... Also, just a side thing, AEW, please start doing like the backstage promos you post on Twitter and put those on air.
Yeah.
Because those are so good every time.
Do they do those because they want people to go to their social medias? Is that the idea?
Yeah, the only thing is they don't like market the fact that like, hey, if you go to our Twitter, you get like exclusive videos.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you saw the Bullet Club one.
No.
It's like, I know in the Discord I shared the House of Black one, which was really good. I'm really interested in what they're going to do with that one. Yeah. Where it's Julia's crying, and then Brody puts his jacket on her and he's like, now it's time to rebuild.
Yeah.
Where I definitely think that they should post more of those, or at least show more of them online. Because you can have it that it's like, oh, you see it first on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then later, put it on air. But like the Bullet Club one was basically, they were like, oh, we're the best trio in this company. And basically it was like, oh, like, it was, I forget like the exact wording of it, but basically Jay White was talking about how, like, we run the division, Bullet Club Gold's the best. And he's like, oh, like it's in our backpacks, but we're running out of space, and like they all held up their belts at the same time, which seeing them with the pink belts is really funny.
Yeah.
Like, especially with the fact that I think it was Jay White, he kept showing the back of it, so when he was holding it up, you could see the two scissors. And it was like, it's really funny when you just see the fact that, like, this is the polar opposite aesthetic they went for.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you have Jay that's wearing, like, his all red pants with, like, the white, like, stitching on it. And then you get the Guns with, like, their white and red pants, and you just see these little bright neon pink belts they're holding.
Now, are those belts going to get changed back to the original design, you think? They're not going to stay with the Acclaim design.
They're not going to stick with the Acclaims. I don't know if they're just going to put the two belts together and be like, all right, the AEW ones don't exist anymore. There's a chance they don't.
Well, because, like,
the only thing is...
I'm going to interject for a second, because I was going to ask this last night while we were live reacting, but then I never got to it. So... AEW owns ROH, but they're treating ROH like it's its own company still?
Yeah. That's why, like, I kept saying that, like, if Tony wants to make ROH a success, that's why you should reach out to, like, Scott D'Amore and just bring him in to run ROH. Like, be like, hey, look, like, I can focus on AEW, you take over ROH.
I almost feel like AEW... and I've had this thought before with ROH, that they have the option or the capability to do something really cool with it, but aren't. Like, I'm going to bring in WWE for a second, just for the model. So WWE has like 3 brands, right? But we know that each, like, even if it's just the 2 mains, Raw, SmackDown, you know that they're 2 separate shows, but they're both WWE. Where why has an AEW, instead of, like, I mean, Collision's a thing. I'm not saying get rid of Collision here, but like when they were making Collision, why not, instead of adding a second show to the AEW brand, say these are the 2 there's an ROH show, there's an AEW show, treat those as the main 2 shows, and then you can kind of, like, basically, yes, AEW owns both of them, but it's kind of giving that facade that then brings in the, like, forbidden door aspect. Because it's like, hey, these are 2 separate brands that have 2 separate rosters, even though they're all AEW.
Yeah, I think it's primarily just because the fact of, by the time that they bought ROH...
They already had Collision and stuff.
Yeah, they already had... I don't think Collision was a thing yet.
But they had
I think
Rampage.
they had Rampage at that point. Yeah, because it was Dynamite and Rampage, and I believe that's when they bought ROH. I could be wrong about this. Wrestling historians that are going to be like, you guys don't remember when they bought ROH. But for you guys, out there that know, let us know in the comments.
I think you're right. I think Collision was after they bought ROH, because that was the whole Punk stuff.
Yeah. Where I think the reason they never did that is because, since technically it's an entirely separate brand, if you wanted to try to get it a TV deal, you have to negotiate with these companies again of like, hey, this company that we just bought because they went bankrupt, you guys want to put it back on TV? Because the whole reason why, like, the state that ROH is in right now, like, people will blame Tony, but people also just have to remember, this is one of the weaker rosters ROH has ever had.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is people, will blame Tony for it, which he deserves blame for things. I'm not acting like he doesn't deserve any blame at all before someone tries to be like, oh, the Tony D writer. But, like, realistically, he's re-signed most of the ROH talent that was already there.
Yeah.
Like, ROH's talent it got absolutely gutted, because most of them either went to WWE or AEW.
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, like, he's kind of dealing with the gutted roster of it, of where, like, he also kind of had to circumvent and start sending AEW talent down to get people to care, because Ember Moon was an AEW talent.
So this is what I would do. This is my, like, I'm gonna, instead of like, oh, Ricky's going to do a separate video on this, I'm just going to pitch it right now. Because I've thought about this, Soapy. I've thought about this. What I would basically do is I'm splitting up the roster. And this is a whole, like, kayfabe thing. I get that AEW and Tony Khan and Shad Khan, well, really it's Shad because it's daddy's money, but Tony has his own money. Tony's writing the checks, signing the checks.
I was going to say, the people also need to realize it's not just Shad Khan that's a billionaire.
I get it.
Tony has a lot of money, too.
Tony's a billionaire, too. Tony, I need to remember that I say it as a joke, but then there's some seriousness to it. And then I'm like, you know what? Tony's the one. Tony's signing the checks, basically.
Yeah. It's like, people need to understand, like, yes, Tony has his money because of his dad. But people also seem to forget Tony has his own companies that are worth millions as well, outside just of AEW.
Which, by the way, have to say it, Shad Khan.
I
have to say it, Shad Khan, U of I alum. ILLINI.
I mean, hey. Shout out to that.
But like, Tony's writing the checks. I get that. But I would do it almost in a kayfabe sense of like, I would treat it like how WWE treats Raw and SmackDown. They're their own things. They have their own TV contracts. You make up a good point, though. ROH, you kind of have to resell it. And you almost have to... The trickiest thing is you have to build it up. How I would do that is I would have a draft. It's the ROH AEW draft. I'm taking the AEW talent and I'm cutting it down the middle. The only thing is, and this is the selling point, some talent, which is big talent that's on AEW TV right now, might see a drafting over to ROH as a like demotion. If I'm Tony, I have to sell it of like, no, this isn't a demotion. I have faith in you. The people that I am choosing to go to ROH, you guys are the pioneers that I believe that can make this brand great and build it back up. You have to sell them on that image of we are building this brand. You guys are the pioneers that get to do that. Is it an easy job? Yeah. No, it's not, because you're not going to be on, like, let's be honest, to build it up, you're probably not going to be on TV. What I would probably do is I would say, you know what, ROH, we're just going to have it on our YouTube channel every week. Some might say that's a negative, but hey, if I can bring in viewers to the YouTube channel and bring them in and show that, you can then take those numbers to a television company of like, hey, people are coming in to see this. Now, how do you get them there? Good storylines, good product.
Yeah, it's just, the only thing is, and this is just I don't want to say like me playing devil's advocate to that, is that's how WWE would handle it.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to be like, oh, he's about to dunk on WWE. Look at the AEW Defender go. But like, realistically, and this is just my whole point when it comes to that, that's not how AEW operates.
Yeah.
Where realistically, AEW operates more in the way that like New Japan does. And like New Japan, if they bought another brand, I mean, for the most part, this is where AEW and New Japan are different. If New Japan bought someone else's brand, they'd be like, screw them. They don't get to come back. We don't care.
Yeah.
Like, that streaming service is now ours. All of your library belongs to me. But I think it's right now, at least, the main thing is with how bad of a state ROH was in. Even if like you put like the biggest names from AEW on it, I still don't think a network provider at any point would want it.
Okay. Well, then you're in the decision.
Only reason I say that, though.
Go ahead. I'm cutting you off.
Yes. The only reason I say that, though, is because for anyone who was watching ROH, like I wasn't keeping up with it like week to week.
Yeah.
But like, it was real bad. Like, and I'm talking real bad. Like,
before AEW bought them, where would you watch them?
That's a good question, because they didn't have a TV deal, and I think you had to buy it through their website. Where basically you had to kind of hope that, hey, the ROH fans are going to tell you where to buy it. Because that's the whole thing of like, that's kind of what they still do now. Because like realistically, ROH is, Tony Khan basically pays them to operate the same way they were before.
Yeah.
Because it worked for a while. Because, like, they operated the same way they did when they had a TV deal. The only thing is, of just, like, wrestling companies, when they lose TV deals, that's basically the nail in the coffin. And that's kind of, like, the final, like, you're not getting like you're not getting back on TV if you lose your TV deal as a wrestling company, like 99% of the time. Because I hate to tell people, Impact is the sole exception to that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's also because Impact / TNA is literally the cockroach of wrestling, and it won't go away.
Like, so I'm looking at the roster, right? And the thing I'm looking at the roster here on my phone is I'm looking mainly for, okay, who are the people that I almost want to say, and I'm going to say it the way I am, that AEW is wasting by being there. And like I look at it, Ember Moon, Athena, would love to be able to see her on TV in AEW. Brian Cage, he was kind of like one of the like mid-card below guys. I don't count him there, but like Claudio, Cesaro, I would put in that category. I would put Eddie Kingston in that category. And I get that some of these guys float between, because like Claudio has the not the Bullet Club, the Pool Club, the Pool Club stuff. He's with the Pool Club. They're playing billiards every weekend. And like we saw Eddie Kingston on Dynasty, but it's like I almost look at it and go, you either have two choices then. You either go all in, try to build it up, or don't and just do the New Japan thing of like, hey, you guys are now ours. ROH is gone. You're AEW talent now.
Yeah, the only thing is, though, and the only thing I disagree with about, at least with Ember Moon, they sent Ember Moon down there to rebuild ROH's women's division because it was awful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it was terrible.
But like, if the brand itself isn't going anywhere, what does it help to build up a women's division down there?
It's primarily just, it's the hope it can come back. Because the main thing is, with Tony buying them, he wants just more wrestling companies out there. Because I guarantee that's the main reason he bought it.
Yeah.
Was to be like, oh, like, I still want ROH out there. Because realistically, like, people who were watching ROH can acknowledge, like, peak ROH is, like, one of the better companies that has ever existed. Like, it's just the whole problem of, when you're a smaller company, you get poached by everyone. And realistically as well, they kind of use it as a development program a little bit. In the loosest sense of development, if they put the people, they're like, we have absolutely nothing for you on AEW. Like, so you get to go wrestle in ROH and be featured. Which is what they were doing is what they did with Athena. Because they didn't have anything for her on the main roster, just because when she came in, that was kind of the weird, like, tumultuous middle period of AEW, of where it was like, oh, like, who gets to be the women's champ? Because it's just before, I think it's, I'm trying to remember exactly the time period. I want to say it's around in the middle of Jamie Hayter's reign is when she came in.
Yeah.
And then that's the weird, like, middle area of, like, oh, like, Sheeta's about to go in her next reign. And, like, Jade's in the TBS area just kind of doing 5-minute matches.
Yeah.
And, like, basically when AEW's women's division was real bad and the booking was real bad. To where then they were like, alright, like, Athena, go to ROH, you'll be featured prominently, which then she became one of the better women's wrestlers in ROH history in the process. Like, it adds credibility to where ROH's women's division hadn't been in a very long time.
Yeah. I just, like, I don't know, I just look at it and I go, maybe it's because, yet again, I try to look at things half glass full. There are definitely times where I look at things half glass empty, but I try to default to the half glass full. And like, I've just looked at ROH and it's like, to me, yet again, as an AEW outsider right now, to me, it looks like a complementary piece to AEW that it's like, that AEW tries to use to be, I want to say credible, but that's not even the word I'm looking for, I don't think. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, AEW's the main thing, but, oh, look, we're bringing them in. We have the ROH champions on. It's like, you're using them to be the supplemental thing to make AEW look better. and it's not helping ROH.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think it helps either. Like, I've been pretty vocal in the past of, like, stop having crossover between the two. Because then you get people who will shut up about AEW having too many belts.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because I will admit, there are times they have people with belts come on, and I'm just like, who in the hell is that? But, like,
I almost wish I had Tony Khan's email, because I would be like, Tony, pay me $12 an hour. I will turn ROH around for you.
I think you'd have to do a lot of the... I think you'd need a lot more than just 12 an hour.
No. I'm saying, like, I would take 12 an hour. To, like, he wouldn't even have to pay me a lot to do it. That's what I'm saying. Like, pay me dirt cheap. I will do the job for you. Because, like, I think it's possible. I just don't think they're doing it. Or they're gonna do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the whole problem of you have to basically fight against the fact that the only people who are watching you were the very small amount of people who are already watching ROH.
Yes, you got to sell people. You got to sell new people on the brand. You got to bring new people in. That's the biggest thing.
It's just the problem of. It's just the main problem. ROH's audience is like 500 people.
Yeah,
like people make fun of AEW audiences for being small. What everyone makes the joke about in reality is what ROH is.
Yeah,
where people are like, oh, all 30 people, like, you're not vastly far off from the average ROH attendance. Because ROH gets like 500 to 1,000 people a show.
Yeah.
I know someone's going to pull up they're going to pull up the attendance figure and be like, actually, it's 1,500, Soapy.
Well, and that's the thing. They're trying to sell just to their core fan base. You got to bring people in. That's the biggest thing. But let's get back to Dynasty for a second. I'm going to ask you a question. Which was the bigger story in your mind heading out of Dynasty? Well, maybe not story is not the right thing. The biggest moment that still got you thinking. Was it what we ended the show on? Swerve being champ? Was it the Ospreay and Danielson fight and the whole injury angle heading out of that? Or was it the Young Bucks being champs and Jack Perry being back already selling a shirt for AEW?
I mean, I respect the hustle in that one, but I actually have it as none of those.
Okay.
As my major takeaway.
Which one is?
Adam Cole's healthy again.
Now, question. I have a question about that. So does that mean everything you told me that me and you were talking about was a bold-faced lie and they've been covering up and he's 100% healthy? Or was that like, oh, he can now walk without the crutches, but he's still not healthy to do bumps and take in ring work?
I'm assuming it's the latter.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's that he's not healthy enough to take bumps and stuff, but he can walk around without crutches now.
Okay. Which is big.
That's at least what I'm assuming. Because, I mean, especially with how, like, doom and gloom they were making it sound. Like, it definitely was like, oh, like, this is awful. And then seeing him stand up from the wheelchair and walk down to the ring and get it on his own accord, and it was like, that's nice to see.
Which I will say, I've said this about other things before. I think I've said this about WWE when we talked about, like, how they should do things and book things. This was perfect. Whoever's idea it was, if it was Tony's idea, Adam's idea, whoever's idea it was, deserves the big old POB, pat on the back, because they basically, through everything, got us so down about it. Like, oh, dude, he's going to be out for, like, he's still like 9 months away. Like, oh, they got us so down about it to where we weren't expecting it, to where when it happened and he walked, whoa, he's walking. Like, I saw you during the pay-per-view. You perked up, Soapy.
Yeah. Well, especially just because the fact of where it's like, oh my god, we're going to get something to happen with this group finally.
And the side-eye from him to Wardlow?
Yeah. That's why I was saying,
perfect camera angle of him just looking at Wardlow, like,
Yeah. That's why it's like, that's why to me, that's what I walked away with the most. Of, like, obviously, realistically, I still think the biggest moment is Ospreay EB.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the best
here.
match.
Like, that's just, Yeah, like by far. It is like, as much as people will try to downplay it on Twitter because people can't tell the difference between a work and a shoot in wrestling, which 90% of the people will be like, Daniel Bryan actually got hurt. He probably took the hidden blades to the match to get over faster. Shut up. Wrestling's fake. If he was actually hurt, they would have told him, like, no, you back away. Yeah.
I don't know if AEW does that. I don't know if the X is like a universal thing.
Like, aside from the few times that AEW's medical teams and refs are stupid and don't tell people to not, do something.
Hey, Excalibur told me on the broadcast yesterday that they have the best medical team in wrestling.
People will make fun of him for saying that, but he's actually not far off.
I just said it because
the thing is, they will. Yeah. Like, beside the times that, they don't tell Sammy Guevara to not knee someone in the side of the head. That's in concussion protocol.
Is that the Matt Hardy thing? Or no, that's the falling on concrete thing.
No, that was the Jeff Hardy thing.
Okay, because he also tried to kill the other Hardy, too.
Yeah, don't let the Hardys near Sammy Guevara. He will kill at least one of them.
Oh.
No, like, the thing is, AEW, like, medical teams have stopped matches in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Where they're like, yeah, no. Like, there's no going home within get it done. This is they will throw up the X and, like, tell them, like, no, it is over. Yeah. We do not care if it screws up TV time. This person's actually hurt.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's why I'm like, it's not an actual injury. Like, realistically, DB will be off TV for a little bit, spend time with his family, think about if he's going to retire.
And then they'll have a match at All In.
Yeah, either have a match into All In, or he'll come back afterwards and do something. Then, because realistically, they're also going to build up towards Will Ospreay breaking away from the Callis family, which I think they're going to use DB's injury to do that.
Yeah, they could do that at Double or Nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably by Double or Nothing, they'll start, like, fully breaking them up.
Yeah.
Because that's the main thing to take away from the end of the match. Like, people are going to be like, oh, but Daniel Bryan was hurt. No, he's not. But also the fact of where it's like, Don Callis is going to get into, like, he's going to lay into Will and be like, no, like, don't take away your moves because it hurts someone. Like, your goal is to win.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're going to build Will up to be a good guy, because they did the whole thing where Will's like, oh, he's going to ban the Stormbreaker because like, it hurt EB.
Well, and
Callis is going to use that against him.
And not just that, if you watch the subtleness from Will after the match, going down to check on DB, the second time when he went up to the ring post to do a celebration, he was looking back like it was in his mind of like he felt bad for hurting DB. Like, that was beautiful. That was beautiful acting by Will Ospreay to actually feel like, get across to me, the fan, he feels bad for what just happened.
Yeah. Mind you, I want people to understand when someone tries to be like, oh, but DB actually got hurt. DB is the same guy who had his orbital bone get fractured and still kept wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't think a dislocated shoulder is going to make him stop doing anything. Literally, the guy wrestled in an eye patch for a year.
Yeah.
Because they were like, yeah, DB, be careful how many times you get hit in the head, because like it could actually break your skull. And he's like, I'm here for real craps, brother.
I'm here for real craps, brother.
Yeah, like, if
no atomic leg drops over here, brother.
Or when, if people want to bring up the other injury, when he broke his leg, and he still kept wrestling on it, I promise, guys, a dislocated shoulder is not going to stop someone. And like,
dislocated shoulder, just pop it back in. It's fine.
It's all you have to do. Like, literally, like, I don't think people realize, one, how often wrestlers do wrestle hurt. Like, let's say DB actually got hurt. Let's say that, like, oh, it wasn't acting and DB actually got hurt. One, if it is a dislocated shoulder, it's literally just pop it back in.
Yeah.
And then, like, wait a little bit for it to be healed. That's it. Because realistically, we can tell when Daniel Bryan's actually hurt. Because when he's actually hurt, like, he changes how he wrestles.
Yeah.
Because one, if he was actually hurt, and he was to the point of, like, I can't continue, he wouldn't have got himself up for the hidden blade.
Yeah.
And also, AEW's
wrestler that's actually hurt is not going to
put
themselves in more harm.
Yeah, unless you're Seth Rollins and you're just wrestling on a torn MCL. You know, and then, like, that's the exception.
That makes me appreciate him so much more.
Yeah, I mean, that adds a lot of credence to him. But, like, the whole thing is, like, realistically, if he was hurt to the point of, like, he couldn't keep going,
yeah,
they would have just had it that they would have told Will, like, no, just pin him.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have had DB set up for the hidden blade.
Yeah.
And then also have the camera crew constantly keep showing DB over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
The entirety of the rest of the time Will was in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, funny enough, isn't it really funny that we've already gotten reports that he's not actually hurt, but you have people on Twitter who are like, but he did get hurt, someone's gonna die in an AEW ring. Those people come out of the woodwork, and it's like, can you guys just shut up? Like, I'm sorry, I need to get on a soapbox for a second.
I love the voice. Go ahead.
Like, I have to get on a soapbox.
Uh-huh.
If I see more tweets of, like, someone's gonna die in an AEW ring, blah, 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 and, like, people will show clips of people spiking themselves, I want to point this out simply. Yeah. All right? Ricky, what's the last major injury we had in wrestling?
Like, major?
I'm not talking about, like, major.
Was that, like, how major are we talking? Like, Big E major?
Like, career-ending injury?
Yeah, Big E, wasn't it?
Yeah. Isn't it funny that everyone's like, someone's going to die in an AEW ring, but we've never had a career ender yet?
Mm-hmm.
And then we look back at other career-ending injuries. How many of them do you see coming from AEW? None.
Mm-hmm.
AEW hasn't changed his style since day one.
Yeah.
And since day one, I've heard, someone's going to die in this ring. Someone's going to die. And it's like,
but let's be honest,
you can make things look snug.
I do want to throw this out here, and people can disagree with me if they want. Whatever. I still am on the side of the Big E injury was just a freak accident.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think any career-ending injury for basically anything is like a...
I mean,
like,
unless
like
it's Nia Jax, because everything she does is unsafe. She breathes and injures people.
But, like, yeah. But, like, the whole thing of, like, when people just constantly talk about someone dying in an AEW ring, and it's like, you guys genuinely either just need to stop hate watching the product or just shut up.
Yeah.
Because until, like, a actual major injury happens, to where, like, realistically, the closest we have to a major injury is MJF.
Yeah. Because he kept
wrestling. That's literally just because
MJ.
Yeah, because he kept wrestling on it and kept making it worse.
Well, when you're the champ.
Where it's like, yeah.
Who do you think he is, Roman Reigns? He can't take time off.
Yeah, that's why, like, it annoys me to no end when people do the, like, but he wrestling, like, you're going to get seriously hurt. Like, MJF is the most serious injury they have. And realistically, it's MJF at any point could have told, like, I was like, Coney. I almost mixed up the last names.
Coney Ton.
Yeah, Coney Ton. But no, like, at any point, he could have told Tony, like, no, like, I need to drop the belt. Like, I'm hurt to the point I can't wrestle. And Tony would have been like, okay, like, we'll find a way to do it. Like, it's the reason it bothers me so much when people do that. Because obviously, I will say, like, AEW does work a more dangerous style. Yeah. There are situations where, like, oh, like, that could end up being.
I mean,
really
at least
bad.
they're not the Joshi style of wrestling for the women.
Well, yeah, where they're actually just beating the hell out of each other.
Kayfabe attempted murder is what I saw it described as on Twitter. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, like, that's the thing that'll always bother me. Of 90% of the time, and once again, I'm just going to use this as my soapbox. If you guys don't like AEW, just stop watching. Just shut up about it, lock all the stuff about it, and shut up. Because all you're doing is just being annoying.
Just because there's multiple wrestling companies doesn't mean you have to watch them all.
Yeah. Like, for instance, if AEW is not your cup of tea, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Don't comment on it. Don't watch it. We don't care. I know someone's going to be like, oh, you're going to tell these types of people who watch the show to stop watching. Shut up. Stop caring about viewership either. You are not financially invested in the company. Shut up.
Yeah.
You don't lose money because AEW's viewership is up or down.
Are we talking about in attendance or TV?
Both, because people don't shut up about either.
Because like
their attendance, their viewers are down from last year, and it's like, yeah, except people also don't realize that every other metric has shown their viewerships up from when they originally started.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say, and this is yet again comparing two companies. I know people hate that, but I will say the one thing that WWE has had to deal with it when it comes to SmackDown with Fox, but it's been a lot easier to deal with because Fox is just like, oh, you'll go on FS1. They don't lose their time slot or anything. But like, because of the channel and the company that AEW is with for broadcasting, Warner basically does a lot of sports. So it's basically like they get screwed by the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, the MLB playoffs, the March Madness tournament, because that's all of them. That's not even just TNT. That's TBS as well. So it's like even baseball's on TBS for the playoffs. So it's like Turner does so much with the sports that I don't think AEW has to do more gymnastics in that sense many times of the year. AEW, USA has nothing. They have Law and Order that they put at the beginning and the end of Raw because they hope you'll watch it. They've also got some movies now and then. Whereas like, what? Fox has been the only one. Like, oh, okay, we got the college football playoff. All right, we got the World Series. All right, we've got this big event. Like usually it was like the college football that they would have and stuff like that. That's like, oh, this Friday it gets knocked to FS1, where usually WWE doesn't have to deal with that like AEW has had to.
Yeah. And even at that, like, it's just different things across the board as well.
That's why I'm interested when the TV contracts come up soon for AEW. They're not just, from what I hear, they're not just coming up. It's basically like, oh, they exclusivity with Warner Brothers or Warner, the company that's Warner Brothers and TBS. They don't have to work with them. They can branch off to other things. And I hear from all the other reporting sites out there that that's why they haven't dived into streaming yet, is because they want to do the streaming when they do the new television deals as well.
Yeah. Because, it's also realistically what they'll AEW can bring something to the bargaining table that, like, I'm not, like, obviously, WWE also has, like, an insane library, because they could, like, WWE kind of can do a similar thing AEW can do, which, they've done with streaming services of, like, yeah, it's not just our library. You also get the entirety of the WCW and ECW, library.
That's why ROH...
They can do this... Yeah, like, I think that's a thing that they could use of, like, oh, yeah, you'll get more than just AEW. You also will get the entire catalog of ROH pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Realistically, if they do that or not, who knows? Because they have the Super Club of Honor where you can go back and watch old shows. But, like, that's the thing. It's just, viewership and stuff like that annoys me. Because it's people who don't know how that stuff works. They just read the Nielsen ratings, and they're like... Yeah. Guys, if I'm a TV executive, I wouldn't pay for this. And it's like, yeah, until you realize there's a reason you guys don't work in TV. It's like, the fact that, like, Warner has come out multiple times and talked about how happy they are to work with AEW.
Yeah.
TNT's talked about multiple times how happy they are to work with them.
I'm going to ask you this, your opinion. Do you think AEW is as happy in the relationship as TNT and TBS are?
I think so. I would assume that there's not any, like... I think the only annoyance would come from the fact that they have to sometimes move the dates of their shows around to make up for, like, if, like, a major event's happening.
Do you think
like
that
college basketball or, like, football or something? Do
you think they move off of TNT when the contracts are up?
I think there's a chance. I don't know if AEW, like, if all of their TV stuff comes up at the same time, or if they have it set up like WWE, or like WWE, where each brand has its own. I'd have to look into that. I don't know that off the top of my head.
I'll see what's up.
Like, I could see them staying with TNT, Especially with the fact TNT's been pretty accommodating. Like, they interact with them all the time. They also talk about how happy they are. Or I know someone's going to be like, oh, Soapy's just making stuff up. Like, just because your favorite podcaster that bankrupted a company, doesn't like AEW, doesn't mean that, doesn't mean you have to try to defend everything they say. And yes, that is a shot at Bischoff. That is a shot at Russo. That's a shot at Cornette. I don't care. You guys can snitch tag me on Twitter. I mean, I think my Twitter's in the bio.
It's down below, yeah.
Or in the description. Yeah. You guys can snitch tag me. I don't care. When Bischoff doesn't bankrupt 2 companies in a row, he can talk.
What about Goldberg, man? It's too corny. It's too corny, man.
And when Goldberg's relevant and anyone actually cares to see him again, he can also talk. And then comes the, you're more relevant than you've ever been. Congratulations. I hope you're more relevant than a random person who doesn't want to be famous.
Yeah, all I'm seeing is so AEW and Warner Bros. Are going to be beginning their negotiations soon. The only thing I think of is for example, Amazon Prime was in the running for what was it, SmackDown or Raw, one of the two. It's like,
I think it's both.
Did Amazon Prime want it because of how popular WWE is, or did they actually want a wrestling program? And now that they lost out on WWE, will they still want AEW? Or do they not see AEW the same as they saw WWE?
I think there's definitely a difference in perception between them. I wouldn't be surprised if they are a company that's like, hey, you guys want to come to Amazon Prime? Because realistically, I think it's the main reason that Amazon was so interested in WWE is because of the popularity of it. Because the problem is, and I always tell people this, wrestling is an incredibly niche audience. Even just, outside of the AEW niche, which is a small niche within wrestling itself, people need to understand how not popular wrestling is compared to what it used to be. Which is why when I talk about ratings, and I talk about, attendance numbers and stuff, that's where I'm basing it off of. Because, if we're going to go off of the logic that everyone uses of, wow, they don't do this, they must really suck. It's like, man, look at the, the viewership numbers from the 90s till now. Yeah. They must really suck, right?
Yeah.
Because before they're pulling 9 million in the 90s.
Everything I'm seeing right now from my little research, Soapy, on the phone is that the big thing that's holding negotiations back right now is Warner Brothers wants to finish up their negotiations with the NBA. They're about 75% of the way agreed between those two parties. So it's like once the NBA and basically TNT and them want to keep the NBA. After they do that, okay, let's then see what's going on there. Which AEW, I get it. The WWE, or not WWE, the NBA brings in more money. The NBA is way
more important
for TNT. But with AEW, I'll be honest, I'd be interested if they branched out. But if I'm thinking about it, they'll probably stay on TNT. They'll stay with Warner Bros. And in the deal, what I really want, and I don't care if they stay with TNT to get it, I want AEW on a streaming service. I would love for HBO Max to be like, yeah, you can get every AEW pay-per-view with your HBO Max subscription.
Yeah, I definitely wish they would do that as well. Especially because the fact of, one, you'd realistically get more people to watch the pay-per-views because paying $50 for a pay-per-view is rough.
It's archaic.
In 2024.
It is actually archaic. Yeah. It is like I'm back in the 90s not buying pay-per-views.
Yeah, to where realistically people are watching them through illegal streams.
Because
to where it's
because also here's the thing I will say, just to cut you off real quick. Back then it was the big allure was, I have to watch it now because there wasn't an internet. The internet was very new to where it wasn't I could go on the computer and look up everything right away. That was basically until the 2000s that started kicking into effect, where nowadays it's okay, you're going to make it that hard for me to watch your pay-per-view? I just won't watch it, and I'll wait for people to put the matches on Twitter, or I'll read the dirt sheets after. Like, there's a million other things that are out there to take my attention, and there's so many ways for me to get that information after it happens, to where it's like, you know what? If you're going to make it that hard, I just won't watch it.
Yeah. Like, that's definitely why I think the next major thing they should do is a streaming service. Especially because the fact of, one, that's kind of how you branch into, like, audiences that aren't normally into wrestling to begin with.
Yep.
Because, like, let's say someone's, just having a boring night on HBO, and they're like, man, you know what? I've watched all my shows. Like, they're just kind of, like, bored scrolling, and they open it up, and they see, like, oh, there's an AEW thing. Like, and if they're bored, they may watch it. Who knows? Like, realistically, like I said, wrestling's incredibly niche. Like, the audience really isn't growing.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing is, like, it appears to be growing because it's people who used to watch in the 90s are hearing it's good again. And, like, they're just peeking in for a little bit to see, like, okay, like, is it actually good? And then those are the people that are like, none of these guys are, like, Stone Cold and The Rock, except now that The Rock's actually back.
But
they can't feel like, this guy's like The Rock.
But the big thing is, if they can add the ROH to that catalog, they could branch out to different people, AEW fans, people that would be like, hey, you know what? I just want to come in, watch some of the, like, I hear AEW is good. Oh, I can watch some old AEW content. People who are AEW fans, they're like, oh man, I want to go back and watch, like, the first Double or Nothing, or like this pay-per-view, that pay-per-view. Just like we do with WWE. Like, oh, I want to watch this random takeover in NXT. And then you can get the other people, even if it's like, hey, I used to be an ROH fan back in the day. I want to watch CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. I want to watch the Seth Rollins days of ROH.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely do that with ROH, but, like, it's the same sort of thing, like, with Impact, of, like, it sucks to go through their streaming service.
Yeah, that's why it's like, I would just piggyback that, and I would kill the ROH one and say, hey, you're coming with us, bud. Kicking and screaming.
Yeah, so anyways, Dynasty happened. I realized that we got completely away from that again.
We did. The last thing, Soapy, I'm going to ask you about it, because this is the last thing that I kind of have anything about for me, is Swerve is champ. The big thing now is, like, I almost have this thought of, like, okay, now what? It's kind of like the Cody Rhodes thing of, like, okay, now what?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be interesting, because I'm interested specifically in how long they want Swerve to be a champ for. And it's specifically because it's like, do we give Swerve a year-long reign? Like, how long till we see fans kind of turn on Swerve? Because realistically, it happens with every champ. We root for them when they're not winning, and then as soon as, they start winning, or that they start having these situations where, like, they finally are champ, like, how long until people stop caring? I think that's going to be the situation that I really want to see with Swerve.
Yeah.
Especially because, Swerve's technically not supposed to be a good guy. Like, I need people to remember that. Like, Swerve was supposed to be a bad guy in this whole thing. But we all just started loving him because, one, we all swerve when we drive, let's be real here. But, no, like, I definitely think I'd give him bare minimum till World's End.
Till the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because, like, I just thought about this now. WWE and AEW now are in a very similar spot with their main champion. But they took different roads to get there. WWE we had this top champ for so long. He went up against the guy, didn't beat him, went up against him the next year. The story got finished. AEW we've had this champ for so long. Because let's be honest, to me, Roman, MJF, in most people's minds, not mine, because Roman is not the greatest champ in my mind. Roman and MJF are kind of, like, in most people's minds, the best modern champions of both companies. I know one's lineage is way longer than the other, but people would see them as the two greatest modern champions for the company. On the AEW side, we don't have the guy that's going to be the guy to take it off him for the future. We need a transitional guy. Cool. We got that guy in Joe. Joe won, was the transitional champ. Now it's on to Swerve. But they're both at the point where it's like, okay, we are both out of those reigns. We're out of the Roman Reigns era in WWE. We're out of the MJF officially, I'll say. Out of the transition, out of the era officially. Now we have that first guy who's the true, like, yes, this is the guy who's going to bring this championship forward. And they're both kind of in a space of like, all right, now what? It's a different now what, but it's still now what? On Cody Rhodes' side, it's the, all right, we've built so much for you to be champion. Where do you go from here? Was the allure to you that basically you were grinding up and now you have the championship? It's like, okay, now what? And for Swerve, it's like, okay, you're champion. Where do we go from here? Is it immediately Adam Hangman Page and it's just right into a feud with him?
If I had to guess, Hangman may at some point be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they're waiting for specifically is, and this kind of veers away a little bit from the championship,
Go ahead.
but I think this is how kind of you explain how Hangman just doesn't go right back to Swerve. I think they're waiting for Kenny to be healthy.
Yep.
And they're waiting for Kota Ibushi to be healthy because they'll do them versus the Elite. Then I think they just have to find like the fourth person for it. Because I'm assuming that Jungle Boy is going to join the Elite.
Yeah.
Considering that when he was being pulled away by security, when he went back, he flashed up the Elite symbol to the Elite.
Then who feuds with Swerve right out the gate?
That's the part I don't actually know. I think that there's a chance he starts to feud with the Don Callis family. That's the direction I think
we really want to
with.
just take that belt right off him and give it to Will Ospreay, huh?
Well, no. The reason I'm saying though, no, sorry, my bad. I thought of Will for a second.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, my bad. I misspoke with that. I think with Swerve, I think it's just you find, like right now it's kind of the weird, like, I would find it really interesting if Christian was his first feud. Because right now Christian's not doing anything because he got beat by Edge, and he's
right,
and he hasn't really been around. So it's like, I think Christian would be a good placeholder feud, kind of feud with Christian's group because he has his own. Swerve also has his own group because he's got the Mogul Embassy, but realistically, I could care less about the Mogul Embassy. The only person in that group I care about is Swerve and Prince Nana. Like, I could care less about Brian Cage, and I forget who the other guy in the Mogul Embassy is. But, like, I could care less about the other two. Like, just give me Swerve and Nana. So, like, I think Christian would be a good starting point, because then it kind of gives you that time to figure out, like, okay, who's the next one up? Like, who do we do next? Because realistically, Mox isn't going to be around for it, because he has the IWGP. Like, I don't think you could put someone like Claudio there, as much as I love Claudio. Like, he could feud with the Combat Club. Like, realistically, it's kind of the weird, like...
I've got an idea.
It's like the middle ground. Who you got?
I don't even know if I like this idea. And mainly because, so we saw at Dynasty a little bit of a tease to the United Kingdom stuff. And...
Undisputed Kingdom, you mean?
Yeah, Undisputed. I said United Kingdom. I'm
sorry. I did the same thing on the predictions.
You did the same thing when we were thinking of UE. But basically, yes, the Undisputed Kingdom. They teased that stuff. My first question for you, Soapy, is how long of a slow burn do you think the Adam Cole Wardlow stuff takes? Or would you want it to take? Because, like, it's not going to be immediate. But there's an idea that I have.
I think it's going to massively depend on if Adam Cole's ready or not. Because the thing is, if he's healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if by All In, like, they've kicked Wardlow out of the group.
By when? Say it again?
By All In. So, like, by August, if Adam Cole is healthy and, like, ready to go, like, I wouldn't be surprised if by August, him and Wardlow are doing their thing.
Here's my blueprint then. We have a backstage or we have a promo where you can tell it's like another subtle, like there's tension between them. Mainly Adam Cole and Wardlow. And Wardlow gets it in his head where I got to prove kind of like that. I got to prove myself. Or maybe Adam Cole like insinuates that, hey, you were the reason, like, I didn't like you during Roddy's match. You could have done more to help him. Like, thank God he had enough to like, I know how great Roddy is. He got the win. You need to be better. Where Wardlow's like, all right, I got to prove myself. Wardlow goes out. How do you prove yourself? It's like the prison mindset, Dirty Dom. Let's go out and pick on the biggest guy in the room. Let me go pick on Swerve Scott. Let me call my shot. We get a Wardlow Swerve at Double or Nothing. Swerve wins. But we get the round 2 to it at All In. And that's where you can have either go 2 and be done, or you could have it be a 3-part and maybe like Wardlow gets like a cheeky like DQ win where it's like he gets disqualified accidentally during All In, and then All Out they have the third one. But Wardlow loses twice because he's not going to take the championship off of Swerve, and you give Swerve 2 feuds for Double or Nothing and All In, and it uses it to accelerate the Undisputed Kingdom thing with Wardlow and Adam Cole. And that's how Wardlow gets kicked out of the group where, hey, I'm calling my shot. I think this is going to help me. He's going to think highly of me, but really it just doesn't work for him. And Adam Cole has had enough with him.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a chance for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't even want to say only.
Mm-hmm.
My main thing with it is it's entirely dependent on how long. Well, yeah, his injury is also as well. I do think that they'll want to keep the belt off of at least Adam Cole till MJF's back.
Yep.
Because there's something in my head of like, I think that as soon as MJF comes back, him and Cole are going to feud again. Because realistically, like, that's kind of where it was headed.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's like, it definitely seems like that's the direction to go.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows? I mean, if they're able to work with TNA again, if TNA lets them borrow some wrestlers, or specifically one wrestler, and then we get MJF's old group, I forget what they were called. It's not...
Mm-hmm.
I forget what they were called in MLW. Basically, it was Hammerstone, MJF, and I forget the final person's name. But, like, if they had them versus the Undisputed Kingdom, like, and then kind of it's the weird, like, with Wardlow being the odd man out, they'd probably do the storyline of would Wardlow trust MJF again? Because I think that's going to be the direction they at least try to go with it. I could see Swerve feuding with the Kingdom. The only part is it would only be Wardlow until Adam Cole's healthy.
Yeah. Well, how about this is a second thing? We talked about the Acclaim getting split up. What if Anthony Bowens? And it's basically used as Swerve putting over Anthony Bowens in defeat.
I think that's putting Bowens in a spot he's not ready for.
Okay.
Because realistically, I could see Bowens going after like the TNT championship.
Do we want Swerve to be a babyface champ or a heel champ?
I think they'll do tweener. Because that's kind of where he flies between right now, is he's a tweener. Because like he'll do bad guy stuff, but people cheer for him. Because mind you, I want people to know, when I say he's supposed to be a bad guy, he broke into Hangman's house.
Yeah.
Like, he's not supposed to be the good guy. But everyone loves him.
Because how I see the model in my head is I see kind of a 2 feud kind of tier for the rest of the year where maybe Double or Nothing All In or Double or Nothing All In All Out. Because All In All Out are a week apart. So I'd probably do Double or Nothing, All In, All Out. That's feud number 1. And then feud number 2, Wrestle Dream Full Gear, with then the start of that 4th one maybe being World's End, or that's where like the Adam Cole comes in because he's healthy by then. But like, there's a party. I like the Christian Cage thing that you said. Like the other idea that I had, that I was floating around, like if Darby was healthy, I'd say we could put Darby there. If Hook didn't have all the contract dispute stuff that is apparently coming out of why he lost at Dynasty, I would say throw Hook in there, and like even though Hook loses, could look like, that's the thing. You could have guys look good in defeat against Swerve. They don't have to beat Swerve to look good.
Yeah, I think it's one of those weird situations of, especially like right now, this is the main problem with the injuries that are in AEW, is a lot of the people who are hurt are their main event guys. Because realistically, like, you would probably aim for him to have a match with Omega, probably have a match with MJF, like Ibushi, if he was healthy, would be featured more. Where like it's that weird, like, a lot of the people who are hurt are kind of more of that, like, the tippity top of the card guys.
Yeah.
Realistically, like, who will probably get him to feud with? Probably Keith Lee.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get stuck having that eternal feud never end.
So I also have this thought. Fast forward to All In. Will Ospreay wins the title off of Swerve, and they use that, like, that's the number 1, like Swerve Will won, and that's what starts the, like, because we don't have that a lot in wrestling, where it's like, oh, the challenger won the title, and then the second one is the champ trying to get it back. It's usually a lot like, oh, I challenged, I lost, ooh, well, I'm gonna fight you again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I do think it's a very real thing that Ospreay's not getting a title shot this year.
Okay.
Like, I do genuinely believe that if he gets a title this year,
All
it's
In
not going to be
2025.
Yeah. Well, mostly because with the fact of realistically this year they have the minimized capacity because of the agreement they have for the whole Taylor Swift thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that. And there's also the fact of, like, I think we could talk about how bad her album is.
Like, my mom loves it, and I can't. I look at my mom differently now.
Yeah, like the thing that I think it's just like right now. I think Will has enough to do where he doesn't need to go for the belt specifically. Because, like, for instance, I think you could have it that he gets wrapped up in the stuff with the Elite. Because he could be the main one to go after Okada and take his belt.
Yeah.
So you could do, he goes after Okada. Like, I think I would give Will a run with one of the other belts first. Mostly because, like, I feel like, now, personally, this is just me, I feel like it's a really cheap cop-out to just say that, like, oh, Will's gonna win it all in this year because he's British.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I don't think that they would have it that they built up Swerve for, like, over a year to have him lose in,
You also
4 months?
don't want to kill all momentum for Swerve. And that's what that would probably do. Like, that's why I'm thinking you could have, like, you can basically have your cake and eat it too. Will can win it all in, but it's the start of that feud where now Swerve's like, because you could do a thing where it's like Swerve gets real cocky now that he's champion, and it's almost like the Double or Nothing match is somebody that he would have easily defeated. Will Ospreay was the opponent that he basically was too cocky, took his eye off the prize. That's why he lost. Building him back up for the next one, which would be, you could do All Out, but I would probably wait and do Wrestle Dream. And then it's like a Wrestle Dream, he wins it back, getting a little bit of adversity, like, in that storyline, and then carry on. Like a little road bump. I don't know if that's needed, but if you went that way, that's how I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, I wouldn't have Ospreay win the belt this year. Like, I know, realistically, like, Ospreay probably right now is going to be the biggest name in the company. Especially the fact they're building him up to be like the ace of AEW, which, I mean, realistically, he's not the ace of AEW yet.
He doesn't need to be
that's
the
still
champ.
box.
He doesn't need to be the champ to put on the best match.
Yeah. Like, I think right now you could continue to use Ospreay in the way you've been using him, over, like, it helps feature talent that have kind of just been around.
Yep.
Or, like, realistically, that's why I think it's you feud with Don Callis family and eventually break Aussie Open away from them.
I can't.
It's like, I think that's how you can start the breakup of the Don Callis family for the most part, or at least for, like, potentially of, like, the Keshta leaving or Hobbs. Realistically, just let Hobbs be on his own. Stop putting him in groups. Like, every group kills Hobbs some momentum.
Oh, I love Powerhouse. Powerhouse.
Like, it's like, let Hobbs be on his own for a little bit. But, like, I think, realistically, Ospreay will probably form his own group with Aussie Open. At Forbidden Door, I'm interested to see, and I know this has nothing to do with the booking, I'm interested to see what they do for Forbidden Door.
I was going to say, I can't wait for Will's match. I cannot wait to see what dream match they give us, or what New Japan match they give us.
I have a feeling I know who his opponent's going to end up being. The only thing is, I don't know if it's a match I really want to see.
Because we've seen it so much in New Japan?
No, not even that we've seen it. I think it's I think it needs more time to build.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a feeling he's going to fight Gabe Kidd. I don't assume you know who Gabe Kidd is.
I don't watch New Japan.
Yeah, so basically he's one of the other people who was in Ospreay's group.
Okay.
And he's kind of started to become a bigger name since Ospreay left.
Yeah, well, I mean...
So it's one of those things of... I could be wrong. Someone's going to be like, actually, Soapy's a part of this other...
It's kind of like the sun and the moon. Once the moon gets out of the way, the sun can shine, man. Ospreay was blocking all the light.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just like the meme of where it was... when he was Kenny Omega was like, I leave New Japan in your guys' hands. And he's like, he turned around a year later. What are you guys all doing here?
What are you guys all doing here?
Well, because, I mean, yeah, because he left it for everyone and then everyone showed up. But, like,
yeah,
I think realistically, I think that, I mean, like I said, Forbidden Door never plays into an actual storyline.
No,
it's just like, hey,
it's a show.
Like, we're just throwing stuff together.
Yep. It's kind of like what Survivor Series used to be in like the past. Where it was like, okay, it's just going to be brand versus brand.
Yeah. See, and people told me stories are the only thing that matter in wrestling.
No, and they're not always the thing that matter.
Tisk.
Well,
but like, no, I think that it's definitely... I think Swerve is going to have a long reign. Like I said, at minimum, I give him till the end of the year. Like, I could see Swerve being one of the guys they give one of the longer reigns to.
Okay.
Who takes the belt off of him? I mean, probably Will
Cole.
Next year. Yeah, either Cole or Will next year.
Well, it depends on also if MJF is back. Is he healthy? Because, you know, I'm hearing that MJF hasn't re-signed, so he's still a free agent.
Of course.
Could be going to WWE. Just saying.
That vague wording of he's still with AEW.
I don't know.
Sorry,
man.
Retro. I had to take a shot at you live.
I haven't heard anything, man. I he could be a free agent. He could be trying out Hollywood while he's waiting. But that's going to do it for Heel Talk this week. Thank you guys for everything that you guys do listening. Remember that we are on social media. MVP is on social media. All that's down below. The Discord link is in the description. The Patreon, if you want to support us, is down there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can check us out there as well. Soapy, we'll be back in 2 weeks. I believe Backlash. It's the Monday after Backlash we'll be back? No, Backlash is this. No, it will be the Monday after Backlash. Right? Yeah. Yeah, because Backlash isn't this weekend. It's next weekend. The next time we'll be back, is before Backlash. Next week, Soapy and I will have our predictions for Backlash. And then we'll be back with our regular scheduled programming the Monday after. I want to thank everyone for what you do, listening, liking, subscribing, commenting. Soapy, I want to thank you for another great show. I love how before the show, we were like, what do you want to talk about? And we threw out like 4 ideas. And then Dynasty, talking about Dynasty. We talked about ROH that I didn't expect to. We talked about the TV deals.
This is more just an episode. We just talked about everything but Dynasty. We talk about like three things.
We used Dynasty as a jumping off point. That's what we use. That's what a podcast is. But thank you for a great podcast, man. Couldn't have done it without you, obviously, because it would have been pretty boring if I was talking to myself. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for everything you do. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
As always, we'd like to thank the people who make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen now. If you'd like to become a patron, click the link in the description below, and if you'd like to check out another video from MVP Entertainment, hit the video in the upper left. As always, thanks for watching.